friends. We've got Heidi Dollinger, who is from Maui, and we've got Dylan Nonaka, who is from the Big On. We are waiting for Ashliey to connect if she will, but until then, the show goes on, and we are happy for everyone to be here. Let's go clockwise. Dylan, why don't you say we're gonna. Let me do real quick before we do that. Let me kind of give you guys the quick lineup. If you're coming in after the live show, we've got bookmarks on the bottom, chapters in YouTube. You can click right directly to the section of the show that you want to go to. We've got some great news coming for you, some interesting stuff to talk about, a market update from all of the islands about real estate. Of course, your questions is the most important thing that we've got. We've got some diamonds and deals, some properties that we want to show you, and we're going to close with some motivational thoughts. That's our lineup for today. And let's kind of warm up with our friends over here. Let's warm up the microphones. We're still getting everything ready over here. So Dylan, why don't you get us started? What's going on? What's the we always talk with Dylan about his aloha shirt. So what's the aloha shirt and what's going on today? How are you?
It's a beautiful day over here in Kona. This is a living hula aloha shirt with this quilt pattern on it. This is a new one that came out kind of recently in the last couple months or whatever. So it's latest and greatest that they got. If you always check them out, livinghula.com. They're personal friends of mine and awesome folks, actually real estate clients too. But great local brand, very comfortable, and actually my son is even a model on their website for their clothes, for their kids' clothes. So
okay, full disclosure here. Full disclosure, full disclosure. No conflict of interest over here,
None.
But none whatsoever. Great. Glad that you made it. The weather's been interesting, right? I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about the weather along the way somehow, but it's been blowing Kona winds like all over the place. Kona winds. How do Kona winds affect? Because you live on the Kona side of the Big Island. I'm curious, how do Kona winds affect you when the winds blow in Kona?
It's not bad. It actually, there was one day, I think the end of last week, where it was kind of windy. And the thing about Kona, we might have talked about this before, is I always talk about, like, a brag, it's like the best weather, right? Because it's like never too windy, it's never too rainy, it's always sunny. But when we do get a weird weather pattern and it's windy, it's a chaos because, like, the trees don't ever get any wind. So, like, tons of trees fall, tons of branches break. And so windy weather is like, this causes complete chaos in Kona because we're not built for it. It's not like other towns. Like if you go to like Hawaii or Kau, where there's plenty of wind on the island because it's the north and the south side that wrap around, or there's, places on Maui that are super windy. You don't really get that because the nature is used to it. But on the Kona side, yeah, the trees are weak when it comes to wind. So all kinds of, like, I drove to my office today. There was like a little palm tree just fell across the road and it's been there for 50 years. And it's like the wind must have just hit it right. It fell over. It's crazy. So
it's funny. It's like, so as wind is to Kona, snow is to like places in the south where it's normally warm, and they get like overrun, and it's all pandemonium goes on. Interesting. Hey,
but it has been very, very cool lately. I think we've all been experiencing that it's been definite sweater weather in the morning, low 60s, which is unusual.
Well, they're good at, and on cue, Ashliey, who has just joined us, is wearing a sweater just to prove your point correctly. Excellent. Hey, why don't we go over to let's say hi to Heidi first, and we'll come over to Ashliey. Ashliey, thanks for joining us. Heidi, what's the coffee? So Heidi's specialty is the coffee. What's the coffee today, Heidi, and what's going on in Maui?
So I am drinking my favorite coffee from Badass Coffee. It's the red Katuai bean. It's excellent. And I got to experience something new last night. I went to an event at the Ocean Vodka Place, which is upcountry on Maui. I highly recommend it. Incredible views, incredible sunset. There was live music, great food. If I knew how amazing this place was, I probably would have been going here all the time before, but got to experience it for the first time last night. So really
what is this place? Is it a restaurant? What is it?
It's an organic farm and distillery. But I was going to a private event there, and so we were just outside on this lawn, and you have these amazing bi-coastal views. So you can see the North Shore of Maui, you can see the South Shore of Maui and the sunset. And there was music, food, you're outside. I was actually expecting it to be cold because it's up the mountain from where I live, but it was just gorgeous. So yeah, really, really fun night.
That is totally awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Cool. So let's move on to Ashliey, who is on Oahu. Ashliey, what's the sweater like? How's the
Is the sweater
cool out
like?
there?
No?
What's the sweater like? How's it all coming along over there? What's going on your side of the island today?
The sweater is lovely. I feel comfortable. It reminds me, I used to live in the central island or central part of Oahu, and my house had a metal shingle roof, aluminum shingle roof, and that was single wall construction. So it was very breathable. That's the realtor term we like to use. And but kidding aside, it was so cold. It was like 10 degrees colder than outside. And I'm experiencing something similar for one of the first times living in Kailua, which has been 3 years now. It is really chilly, and I go outside to defrost. I mean, I'm wearing like fuzzy socks and everything in the house just to navigate around. But as soon as I go outside, it's hot, it's sunny, it's beautiful. I'm defrosting every few moments that I can get out there.
Now, is that because now is it because your house is in the shade, or it catches the wind a different way? What do you think what's the explanation you have for that?
I don't know. This house has regular asphalt shingles. It is a single level, so sun never really beats into any of the windows. It's normally like somewhat breezy. It's always sort of neutral. Don't have to run the AC too often, except for in the winter summers. But the floors are all travertine throughout almost the entire house. That's really holding in a lot of the coolness. And I think just because sun doesn't beat into any of the windows, we have lots of windows, but because it's a single level and where it's positioned, it doesn't penetrate inside of the house. I'm not sure. I'm just convinced that it's chilly at night. It's so chilly that it really cools the house down. And so it takes a while for it to warm back up in the day.
Warm back up again. Yeah. That'll do it. Yeah, the old. I've got my everyone in the house knows it's wintertime when I wear my sweatpants and my socks and a long sleeve T-shirt and sometimes even a sweater over that. Thankfully, not today though. Not today. Hey, folks, if you're just joining us, give us a shout out. We'd like to know where you're from and who you are. Like Alex Martin over here. Alex, welcome back, buddy. Alex has become a staple of the show, a regular. Thanks, Alex. It's good to see you again, buddy. And the rest of you, say hello. Let us know where you come from. We're also kind of streaming. We're trying something new here. I'm streaming live to Instagram, which is kind of neat. And so I'm kind of curious how that is. A few people joined from Instagram on a live stream, which is kind of fun. So, all right. Well, look, it's that time. Why don't let's move on over here. I'm going to go for some quick news updates over here to let you know kind of what's going on. We have some fun stuff to talk about. I'm sure, Ashliey, I want to hear I think we all had some experiences. This last week was the week that the lights went out. There were some like serious power outages. Certainly on Oahu, we had several, some of the longest ones that I've had in recent memory. Long meaning it was out for a few hours. And worse is, surprisingly, the internet went out too. Normally, when power goes out, internet stays on if you've got power into the house. But these weeks were pretty bad. Pretty bad. A bunch of things. It's complicated. Not going to get into that. Sea gliding. So hey, check this out, gang. Sea gliding. There is this is a artist rendering here of a new mode of inter-island transport that's coming around. It's a sea glider. Apparently, it's supposed to be an all-electric glider that, as you can see, kind of glides very, very closely to the surface of the water. It uses what's called ground effect. So it flies, but technically it flies, but legally it's not designated as a aircraft. It's designated as a watercraft. But this is being touted as a new way to get in between the islands, which is interesting. We'll see how all of that goes. So I thought you folks might like a picture of that. Maui renting, it's getting hostile. I want to hear what Heidi's got to say about this. There's some interesting developments going on in Maui. By hostile, I mean market hostile. The government funding of the folks who have been displaced is really throwing the market off. So, for example, there are some people that are getting legit renters that are getting evicted because the landlord can get higher rents from folks that are fire victims. So it's there. We talked about this in over many episodes. I'm curious what Heidi's experience has been with this as well. Hawaii is beautiful but dangerous. I've mentioned this many, many times. There's a couple stories that I just wanted to re-emphasize that Hawaii, don't be fooled by Hawaii's beauty. Hawaii is beautiful, but it's an extraordinarily dangerous place. For example, there were some hikers that decided to ignore the warnings to hike Mauna Loa on the Big Island. They ignored those warnings. It's actually been Mauna Loa actually requires a permit to hike, and the permit period ends during the winter months for good reasons. Of course, these hikers decided to ignore that, and they had to be rescued after getting lost during severe winter weather that had closed the summit. So you got to kind of be aware of that. And another one on Kauai, sadly, a visitor from, I believe, from the East Coast died Sunday after a fall from the Hanakapiai Falls Trail in Haena. So Hawaii's, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. And then finally, I ran across this really interesting story that I got a big kick out of. I did not know how tied that MLK was to Hawaii. Here's a kind of a. I'm curious if my friends over here know about this. So look at this interesting picture here. This is you notice that this is a march on the mainland, and you notice what they're all wearing, including what MLK is wearing. They're wearing leis, and those leis are from Hawaii. So there's an interesting history that I was not aware of with MLK in Hawaii, and it goes back actually quite a bit. He was actually friends with the then Senator Daniel Akaka. His brother was a preacher, and MLK had come to Hawaii, was inspired by Hawaii, and I never knew about that. So I thought that was interesting in honor of MLK Day. All right, I think that's it for the news. Let's say hello to a bunch of friends of ours who are joining us. Thanks. Give us a shout out. Let us know where you're from. It's always fun to kind of know where people are from. So Paul is from the east side of the Big Island. Awesome, Paul. Well, we're glad that you're here. It's really, really cool.
Paul's an agent. Paul's an agent on our team.
Awesome. Hey, Paul. Well, listen, man, Paul, it's cool to watch your boss on the screen, right? Or your fearless leader, I should say, your fearless leader on the screen. Welcome, Paul. It's good that you're here with us. Please feel free to kind of join and be a part of the show. Throw whatever comments that are relevant. Thomas, aloha, currently in Pittsburgh. Wife and I own a home in Mountain View. Awesome. Well, Tom, all I got to ask you is, what are you doing in Pittsburgh, dude? You should be, I mean, this is the time to be in Hawaii in January in Pittsburgh, and you guys got some serious storms that you've gone through and are on their way. I'm sure Joan is back. Auntie Joan Valentine. Aloha, everyone. Welcome, Joan. Good to see you. So glad that you are here as a part of it. Aaron is hailing from Washington State. Awesome. Bob Carl, another upcoming show regular. Welcome, Bob, from Hawaii Kai Peninsula. Hope you're enjoying the day today. Sue is from Lacey, Washington. Awesome, Sue. Terrific. And yes, see, Paul agrees. He is a great influence. I mean, you're with one of the best, man. You're with one of the best, if not the best. Sue is back. Welcome back, Sue. Aloha from California. I'm listening as I drive. Okay, Sue, listen as you drive, but please don't look. Don't look as you drive. Listen. Keep your focus on the road and stay safe. But we're glad that you're here, and I am actually humbled by the fact that you decided to listen to us while you drive. I hope it's enjoyable. All right, let's get on with some. It's time for some market updates. Let's kind of figure out what's going on with the market. Why don't we do this? Why don't we go down, up? Let's go Ashliey, and then Heidi, and then Dylan. Ashliey, you want to give us what's going on Oahu that you want to share, or any news? I'm curious of how you were affected by the power outages that we had. Whatever you like to share about Oahu and the market.
Well, nothing's changed since we were last on the show regarding the housing market. So just in brevity, we're now back under $1 million for the average single family home for the median sales price. So we're at $996,500. The median sales price for condos is pretty to par. It's up just slightly at $510,000. Regarding the power outages, that was actually planned, and most people know that, but some people don't. HECO had sent out some notices that they were going to be doing these rolling power outages, and a lot of businesses and residents weren't aware, so they were not prepared. You had a lot of people at the checkout stand and restaurants just completely baffled on what's going on, and they were in 30-minute intervals, or they were planned to be in 30-minute intervals. I just think that HECO could have done a much better job at promoting those power outages so people could react appropriately, because there was a lot of confusion what was happening. And I think the reason for that is they did shut down. Well, we know it's because that they ran out of power on Monday. And so in order to recoup some of that lost power that they needed, they are saying this might happen again. We're alone on an island. You know, there is no backup plan here. So just bear with them. We're also going into our winter season, so it's a lot cloudier. So the battery banks for solar isn't able to hold as much. And that brings up that controversy of shutting down the coal plant back in 2022 and not having a solid plan in place to provide, electricity to our residents. I think that it would be good to get everyone else's opinion on that as well. Not that I'm for coal energy. I'm not. If you know me from the show, I'm the hippie of the group. But I just do think that there should be a better implementation, because you pair that, and sorry to be long-winded here, but you pair that with them increasing the cost for electricity as well. So not only are residents not getting stable and consistent power to their homes, did they shut down a coal plant in 2022 without any backup plan in place? But electricity costs, if you're living on Oahu, you might have noticed your bill went up a bit. I know I certainly did when I just got my bill this week, and it went up to $15.24 per kilowatt hour, and that's up from 13.72 previously in 2021.
It's a mess. It's a mess, and that's a conversation unto itself. And boy, oh boy, do not get me started on that one.
I know we're supposed to talk about paradise, and it is paradise. It's the price of paradise. But
we got to talk about the reality, right? Hey, look, part of my brand, Ashliey, is living in Hawaii is all about the truth of everything, both the good and the bad. We got to be straight up so people know exactly what they're getting into. Look, I've lived here most of my life, and there's reasons why I've lived here most of my life, but we need to be we need to tell people like it is. However, quick note before we go on Heidi, quick note. I knew this was coming, and I knew it 3 years ago, and I predicted it, and I actually ended up spending way more money than I want to talk about to have a PV array with battery. So I actually laughed. It was like when this whole thing went out, because I knew it was going to happen, but it's not a good situation. It's not a good situation at all.
I think a lot of people should have PV. They think it's a scam for making money. And I think there is an incredible amount of value for solar and getting PV, even if it's for your hot water heaters. But you really want a house with PV and a battery bank. And what I don't think people realize is when they're shopping for that PV, how important the battery bank is. And then just cost expectancy, batteries can run about $10,000 per battery, but it'll be incredibly helpful down the line. You do still have a lot of tax benefits. Dylan, or you probably know more about those.
Well, I was just gonna say, you don't. Like, that's the crazy thing, is they did away with all the
batteries, but you still on solar, right?
No, like they did. That's part of the problem, is that like 3 or 4 years ago, they cut off all of the incentives to put solar, because the solar was generating too much energy and the power company wasn't making enough money. And so that means criminal, right? I mean, it's like the craziest stuff where the state allows that kind of stuff to happen because of the power of the power company. And really, we should be going in the other direction if we're going to be this green state and care about the environment. But the politics of it is that they do away with the incentives to do the right thing, to empower the power company to continue to burn oil. So anyway,
and HECO is going to further take away incentives. They're going to reduce the amount of the way that they compensate you for your solar power generation. They're taking that's going to reduce, so it's going to be even more expensive for people with solar.
And I think it's island by island, but I know on the Big Island you can't get net metering systems anymore. So if you want to do the system where you put it back on the grid and you get credit for it and stuff, you can't even. So you have to spend more money and get batteries installed if you want to store your own power, because you don't get the credit for it when you put it back on the grid. So if you're grandfathered in, you're good, and that's a real estate consideration, right? Is when people say, like, I want a house with solar. Well, great, but you got to really look at what is the solar system. Is it leased? Is it fully owned? Is there a power purchase agreement? Because that kind of changes the value of the solar system. And it's not all solar systems are created equal. And the homes that were grandfathered in, again, another government, unintended consequence is like you actually gave people more home value, because they have a system that you have a better economic benefit, because you can put the power back on the grid and get credit for it, versus another home today that doesn't have that same opportunity. They have the exact same solar system, but the benefit for the economic benefit from the solar system is different based on when you got it installed and what benefits you got from the power company at the time.
We got a hot topic coming up over here for sure. Hold on, Ashley. We're gonna hold that thought, Ashley. Just hold that thought because we need to get to our market stuff, and we're gonna circle back to this because we're gonna go in a very, very deep rabbit hole. I'm gonna say hi to Tom here. Tom, he can't wait back to visiting family. This is Tom, who's in Pittsburgh, yep, Tom, Hawaii will be here for you, and Heidi is from Northern California. Aloha, Heidi. Heidi Perkins Walker. I'm glad that you're here, and Kelly Hobby, who is another alumni. We have several alumni here of the Islander Ohana. Auntie Joan Valentine is here with us, and Kelly Hobby is with us, who hails from the Big Island. So welcome back. I want to say hello to you all. And Ashley, hold that thought because it's a darn good conversation that people need to have. But just keep bite those fingernails off. Heidi, give us the update. What's going on Maui? Did you guys have any outages? What's the Maui market looking like? Oh, by the way, I just wanted to make sure. A quick note, Ashliey, about the point of Oahu's homes went under $1 million. The median price went under $1 million for the first time since COVID hit, which is really, really cool. But anyway, thanks for that. Heidi, Maui, what's up? Make sure you're unmuted.
We're doing great on Maui. We did have some very windy and severe rainstorms last week, which is very unusual. Usually we get these light rains, but what's really nice is everything is beautiful and green now, which after a big fire in 2023 definitely makes everybody feel more relaxed and feel safer, or at least that's how I feel just looking out and seeing all the green. The real estate market, it's going. I mean, there are a lot of people looking for places to live on Maui. Some people have been displaced and are moving around. Residential homes under 2 million are selling really fast. Residential condos under 1 million are selling really fast. Our stats for 2023, median price of a single family home on Maui, that's the entire island, was 1.2 million, and for condos 832.5, and both of those numbers were an increase over 2022. So we're going into a strong market. I would say the area that's been a little bit softer is the resort market, like the vacation rental condos on the beach. And it's been an opportunity for some buyers who have been waiting for a time to get in the market to shop a little more, have some more options, have a little more negotiating power. And then, of course, you brought up the rentals. Finding a rental on Maui has been pretty intense because, I mean, it was intense 5 years ago, but it's intense now, and especially with the factor of FEMA coming in and paying property owners a lot of money to rent their properties for 18 months. So there's been some competition with that because not all the people in the rental market necessarily are qualified for FEMA. I mean, some people are just regular people looking for a place to rent, and unfortunately, I think that has made it harder for some people. So, anyway, it's a dynamic time going into 2024, but happy to be here.
I think it's going to be really fun to see what's going to happen to Maui's market because you've got a massive disruption, like an unbelievable disruption, right? You've got, on one hand, you've got a massive reduction of availability. So inevitably, I mean, I'm not surprised at all. At first I thought, was like, yeah, I'm not surprised at all that the Maui prices are still median home prices are still increasing over 2023, whereas on Oahu they've dropped very slightly. You don't have any, you've reduced the supply, and there still is the demand. And then you got the other element, which is the government. All good intentions, but this government subsidies are warping the market. They're warping choices. So lots of opportunity for smart agents like you, Heidi. That's all I got to say. Lots of opportunities, lots of opportunity. Hey, before we go to Dylan, I'm going to throw in Joan's comment about the power discussion that we're going to continue probably after Dylan speaks. At least it's understandable. We're on islands in the Pacific Ocean. Years ago, when I lived in California during the summer, the power was always going out. Joan, it's not understandable. There's no excuse for it. We live in the 21st century. Reliable power is not a hard thing. It's not hard to do. I mean, it's hard to do, but it's not like like rocket science. It's doable. It just takes good engineering. That's all there is to it. Anyway, that's beside the point. Sorry, Joan. You know I love you. Dylan, give us the update for the big one. What's happening on your side? How was the week?
Big Island's always great. Real estate market is slow. It's been slow. It was slow all last year, and it's continuing to be. It looks like we're tracking this month to have around 300 sales, which is what it's been the last couple of months, which is relatively low. It's usually closer to 450. So it doesn't feel that way necessarily. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff going on in the market, and when you put stuff on the market, there's a lot of activity, but just the overall number of sales, and some of that is driven by the land market. Not as many people buying land. There's always a huge segment of that being the land market, but yeah, it's prices are still strong. I mean, everything's still kind of going. If you have a house to sell, that's the time to do it because it's super low inventory still, less than 2,000 properties on the market compared to over around 4,000 in normal times previous to COVID. So that's the message we keep sharing with folks, is that it's good to be a buyer right now because there's not that much competition due to the interest rates, and it's good to be a seller because there is very few homes on the market right now, and if you price them properly, you can still get it sold pretty quick and for about the highest price you would have ever got. So you didn't miss the boat, in 2022 if you thought the prices were higher, because we're still up a couple of percent from that year and this year. So still strong, still good, and it's the Big Island, right? What could go wrong?
It's the Big Island. I'm curious. Between the three of you, is it really these interest rates which seem to be sort of freezing the market? Because again, there's not been a lot of movement, and it's been interesting, right? Because both the available inventory is low and the prices are relatively stable. There's been no cratering of prices. I mean, a little bit here and there, but and to buy, is it really because of interest rates, or is there anything else that you folks are hearing on the street? Anybody who wants to chime in, just go ahead and chime it in.
Well, the interest rate. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Heidi, go ahead. Heidi, go.
I mean, the interest rates have been a factor over the past year, but people are more adjusted to the higher interest rates now, and the fact that they've gone down a little bit from when they were at their highest. I'm seeing more people come back in the market, and also more buyers just coming to the realization interest rates are probably going to be high for a while. This is what it is. If I want to buy something, I'm still going to jump in and buy. There's still a lot of competition from cash buyers too. So like we have a lot of, almost half our sales are cash in our market. So that's a factor as well.
I'd say similar, like piggybacking on that, the interest rates, there's conversation that because the feds are lowering their rate, the interest rates are going to lower. And therefore, I think buyers are thinking, I'm going to wait for the interest rates to go back down a little bit more. And I think when we're telling them, I get that. I think that makes sense. It's logical. We are all stating once that happens that there's going to be an influx of buyers, which is going to create a higher demand, which is going to raise the actual home prices. But then that just sounds like a sales tactic, right? Of course, realtors are going to say now is the best time to buy. So I think it's sort of a chicken and egg situation. And they're just doing what they're programmed to do. Interest rates equate to better deal. And we're still seeing movement. It's just with the buyers that we have time to really educate or see the big picture.
Dylan, you had something you wanted to share about the interest rate question.
I totally agree with the ladies. I have nothing to add.
I think it's going to be interesting because I don't pay attention to market forecasts and things of that nature, and I know that the interest rates are always kind of a huge topic, and there's always kind of tweaks. But overall, I don't think we're ever going to get back to the 2%. The next to no. That yes, you're all nodding. You're shaking your.
I don't think we go to 5 in the next couple of years. It'll be low 6s at best.
Yeah, so you're really at the edges, but again, Ashliey, as you said, it is a sales pitch, right? Because the best time to buy is always right now. But Heidi had like this cool modifier. The best time, Heidi, what was the word that you said? The best time to buy is something, something, something. You said it in a really nice way. I don't know if you remember that. Anyway,
I think when you can afford to buy and you need a place to live.
There you go. So anyone who doesn't need a place to live, don't buy. If you don't need a place to live, don't buy. But if you need a place to live, you should buy. All right.
But also, right, Peter, if you go back and you watch the last 3 years of this show, every time we've said it's a good time to buy right now, we've been 100% correct. So there's been no deviation of that. I'm going to bring back an old saying, right? An old, call it what you want, sales tactic or just a fact, right? Is that the only deal in the market today is the house you buy 6 months from now. And that's always been the case. The last 3 years, everybody who's like, oh, we're at the peak and it's so expensive. And then everybody who bought 6 months later felt like a genius. 12 months later felt even smarter. 24 months later was like singing our praises that they bought when they did, when other people sat on the sidelines and said it was too expensive. So.
And I think that there's a lot of narrative and social media and online about there being the Great Recession still on the verge, that we haven't quite seen it yet. And I think that's also making people trigger shy. But again, we go back. We've said this in the show so many times, even with the recession.
We've been hearing that threat for 5 years, right? I'm like, when's it coming?
But even so, the housing prices have never been affected with the Great Recession except for in 2008. So again, I think that there's a lot of misinformation and a lot more salespeople than ever before. So the whole concept of listening to your realtors has fell to the wayside as noise to make money. And you have all these lawsuits out there with realtors, not to speak too much on that, but I think that it makes people even more reserved from wanting to hear advice from great agents.
Well, advice or not, we are hearing from Crystal Bragg, who is from the cold and snow in Colorado. Crystal, hopefully you're making it through over there, and hopefully it's going to warm up for you there a little bit. I would be curious, gang, while we're all talking about this topic, what is your, for those of you that are here with us, what's going on? What's your decision process? Are you looking at selling? Are you looking at buying? Are you looking at staying put? Why? And I'd be curious, gang. What are you planning on doing, and why are you doing what you're doing? I'd be curious about that, because Alex is with us. Alex, another alumni of the Island Ohana. Aloha, everyone. The reason everyone say buy now is because you have great information. Some people are fickle. Sorry to be honest. Well, that's very true. You do have it. It is about the information that you have. On this topic, really quick before we move on, the one thing that I take to heart is in another thing that's related to this is in regular sort of stock market investing. What is also said is like, don't try to time the market. In other words, don't sell now because you think the market's going to go down, or don't buy now because you think the market is going to go up. Don't do it on timing, because you will almost always lose. You might get lucky, but you're going to almost always lose. And there were so many times, just my personal thing, where I thought, oh my God, we need to get out of this because the world's going to come to an end. And I didn't do it. And I was thankful that I didn't do it. And so, don't time the market. Don't time the real estate market either. And speaking of real estate market, Crystal is a new agent in Colorado. Crystal, what on earth are you doing as a new agent in Colorado? You should be a new agent in Hawaii. That's where you want to be the new agent in, Crystal, not Colorado. Colorado is beautiful. It's a beautiful state. My daughter lives in Colorado. So one of my daughters lives in Colorado. All right. Why don't we move? I think is there anybody else is there anything else we want to talk to? Should we loop back to the power question? Ashley's like, no, please.
No, I just thought there was a 30% federal tax credit, because I looked it up too.
There's a federal tax credit. There's no state tax credit, which is insane. Right? Like why? Right. Like most states, you don't get a tax credit for buying an electric car here. Like it's like one of the few states in the whole nation. Like we don't have actual tangible incentives to do the right thing and support clean energy in the state of Hawaii. So any politician who tells you that on the flyers this year, you guys actually quiz them on it, because they're lying to you.
Yeah,
it is so insane on an island, especially.
And Hawaii's got this not crazy, but Hawaii's got this extraordinarily aggressive goal to be something like 100%.
We're gonna do everything in 2050. We're gonna be renewable energy. We're not gonna have cesspools. Like for whatever reason, 2050 is like a real wrong number.
It's an even number. So, it sounds solid.
Oh, you know what? There should be like a meme joke about that, right?
Actually, I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong on that. I think it's 2030 for 100% renewable energy. I'm gonna look that. I'm
I,
gonna Google that real quick.
the number
Yeah,
that pops in my head was 2045, but it doesn't matter. So, look, the point is it's 2050. It's so far out in the future. We're going to have flying cars. We're going to have a perfect education system. We're going to have clean energy, reliable energy, and a clean planet, and
2045.
our own 2045, and our own.
2045.
We're going to be. We're going to be self-sufficient. It's just going to be a beautiful world in 2045. So it's right around the corner. Right around the corner. So it's all coming, gang. It's for sure. Okay, so Carol, thank you, Crystal. Crystal is confirming that is the plan. All right, Crystal. I feel a lot better now. A lot better now. Speaking of feeling better, Judy is with us. Judy is also another alumni of the Honor Hunt, and Judy is right around the corner from making the big giant move to the Big Island. So, Judy, we are totally excited for you about that. The Islander Ohana gang is going to, this is our group. Go to islanderohana.com. You want to learn more about it. But we're going to have our talk story session, which is really going to be cool. Members only. It's a members only talk story session. It's going to happen at the end of this month. And I'm looking forward to that. And I know that Judy's going to give us a big update. All right. Let's move on. Next slide, please. So first of all, gang, look, if you haven't got, I don't know how you've gotten here to see us. We're really glad that you're here. Go to livinginhawaii.com. That's where you can sign up for the newsletter that will automatically notify you every 2 weeks with updates as far as an invitation to the show as well. So it kind of shows up in your inbox. You don't have to think about it. And we send out a newsletter actually every week with some photos and videos and content. So you want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of what's going on over here, because I think this is the coolest place. It's the coolest place online as far as I'm concerned. All right. So why don't we do this? We have a couple of this. Okay. So we got some. So take a deep breath, because we got some good questions over here. So number one, first and foremost, what I want to emphasize here is we're going to answer some questions here, and the questions that matter the most are yours. If you're here live with us now, this is your chance. Ask us anything. Pop it in the comments, and I will take it. I'll pop it on the screen, and we will talk about it. So I want to invite you all to make sure that you do that and you folks as well that are on Instagram. It's good to see a bunch of people are on Instagram and kind of hanging out, which is really great. So thank you all. So why don't we do this? Let's again, if you got some questions, pop them in. So we've got one, and okay, so this one, here's a good one. This is a good one. This is the one that I'm seeing more often here. So this is from a Wayman in Seattle, and the question is: given Hawaii's expensive real estate and so many native Hawaiians having to relocate due to the cost of living, what is the general consensus of non-natives living there? I love Hawaii and would love to live there, but can't reconcile that I'd be encroaching on space that isn't, quote, mine. Thoughts? So this is a classic one, right? I get this a lot. And so good question. How would you? I want you to take this one first, because you've got some interesting ties to the islands, and you're somewhat familiar with this topic. How would you respond to Wayman's question here?
I think it's important to understand the culture before you move here, and just honor that and provide value to the families and to the island itself. I still sometimes would feel that way, especially selling real estate in Hawaii. I'm very aware of my position and what I'm bringing to the islands, and I go out of my way to educate. So in my particular role, being in real estate and selling real estate, I've taken the position of just providing value and education to anyone who will listen. And I just make that as available as I possibly can. I donate 5% of my income back to the island, and every day I make small choices and just trying to leave this better than I found it. So yes, there is a place for you, and true aloha is for everyone. And as long as you are respectful, then it's welcoming.
Great response. Thank you. Heidi, how would you respond to Wayman's? What's your perspective on, because you must get this, I'm sure, and especially you folks in the real estate industry. How do you respond to these kinds of questions, Heidi?
Well, all I can speak to is really my own experience. And I've lived on Maui for about 10 years. I live in West Maui. It's a mix of people with different backgrounds, cultures, races, it's not, there are a lot of transplants here from the mainland. So like the term Native Hawaiian, there's not a lot of 100% people that can say they have Native Hawaiian blood here, but there's many families here that have lived here for many generations. And they might be Native Hawaiian, they might be other cultures, they might be white. And then coming to Maui or from the mainland, you are an outsider in a way, and it is really important to be respectful to everyone that's already here, and show aloha. And like Ashliey said, just respect the culture. It's lately it kind of seems like more of an economic divide between people that have a lot of money versus people that don't have that much, and that's not necessarily always a cultural thing, but there is a divide. So anyway, it's an interesting time, and some of these things have been going on, I mean, for hundreds of years, really, in the islands.
Yeah, and Lahaina's fires are going to further exacerbate or complicate that situation even more so. Dylan, what's your take on this? I know that you've always got good stuff to say on this topic as someone who was born and raised here.
Yeah, there's two sides to this story and two opinions on this, and this mentality and this perspective is really just one side of it. I'm proud to know and have worked with many Native Hawaiians, many locals who do not share that attitude, and specifically, I know plenty of them that it's their mission in life to just buy their land back, right? Like they're driven, successful business people because they don't feel entitled, or if they don't feel a victim to something that happened many years ago that they had no tie to and nobody living today holds any responsibility for. And so that's just a general thing we deal with in our country today, in our community and all across the United States, is you can choose to be a victim of something that happened in the past that you have no control over, and nobody that is alive today has any control over. You can just make the best of your current situation and take control of your future and your kids' future and do what you got to do. So I definitely don't share that attitude. I'm happy to. I have an amazing local businessman client, Native Hawaiian guy, that like he literally buys land and holds it, and that's like his mission in life, is to buy as much of the land back as possible so his kids and his community can use it. I just think he's one of the coolest dudes, one of the most inspirational guys I know. But he never complains about being a victim to something that happened in the past. So you don't have to buy into that. It just depends on who you want to listen to and what narrative you want to believe.
Same.
Yeah,
my
that's
other
a really-
half, he's Hawaiian, and he's not at all. I'm like, are you a little concerned if we dilute the bloodline? Because his family is like, he's related to Duke, Queen. I don't know if it's Lily Kalani or the other. He's related to Nainoa Thompson, is his cousin. So he's got a very strong tie to his culture here. And I was like, you sure it's okay? I'm always just aware and I'm considerate. And he's like, absolutely. That's so ridiculous to even think like that. But with that said, not everyone shares that, because I had shared a dining table with someone, that had also been like, oh, I'm quitting my job because the Howleys are coming to buy it. And they worked, in the industry, and they could not take the Howleys coming and buying anymore. So it was definitely not the majority at the table's thought process, but there are still some people who have that. And I think, to Dylan's point, it's not being a victim and taking the stance that you're going to do something about it, and then surrounding yourself with people who make you feel empowered to do that.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent. Good.
I would add, I love to rely on statistics and not feelings, right? And so we've talked about this in the past, but the reality is, just because someone moves here, it doesn't mean they're displacing someone that's here. It's not a zero-sum game. And anybody in the real estate industry knows that the vast majority of people that we sell their property, like they weren't, they were somebody that came here maybe 10, 20 years ago and are moving back to the mainland. There's a lot of that, right? So somebody coming here is just replacing somebody who came and now is leaving. It's not like a 100% a local or a Hawaiian is being displaced and having to go to the mainland if somebody else buys here. So that is factually just incorrect. And if you look at the numbers on every island, they vary, but like on Oahu, it's 80-20. 80% of people who buy a piece of property on Oahu.
Oops. He's gonna freeze up on that one. So we're gonna oh, there he goes. So Dylan,
yeah.
we can hear you right now. Okay, now you're back. So I forgot what was the last thing that
you
Dylan
froze
said.
at 80-20.
Yeah, so the 80% of the people on Oahu that buy have a local address when they buy. They're not coming from somewhere else. It's more like 60-40 on the neighbor islands, but still it's not like a 100% zero-sum game that everybody who's buying is coming from somewhere else and displacing someone that was here, right? So just factually, that's an incorrect kind of perspective.
So there's some great, excellent responses. You folks are amazing. I love bringing up these things, and I appreciate everyone's perspective. So here's the two, as the guy that's going to try to wrap all this up into like a headline. Here's the two things I see. So number one is like, the one perspective is, yes, it depends what point of view you want to take. It's not the prevailing point of view. There's just are you going to take that's ridiculous, let's move on. I'm not a victim. I'm not part of the oppressed. I'm not the oppressed, and I'm not the oppressor. I'm neither. That narrative doesn't exist. Or you do subscribe to the oppressed oppressor narrative, and that's number one. And number two is that you get to Dylan's point. There's a lot of rotation that people come in and out, and at the end of the day, when someone is selling, let's take it in terms of home sales. When someone is selling a house, there's no law that says that they have to sell to person X. They could sell to anybody they want. And if they say, hey, look, I don't want to sell my house to anyone who's not Native Hawaiian or has Native Hawaiian blood, or I don't want to sell my house to any haoles, or I don't want to sell any of my house to Japanese people. You're not going to say that out loud, but you don't have to accept any offer that you don't want to accept. And there's all kinds of good reasons. In fact, I remember when we bought our house, the person who sold us the house was partial to us because we had a young daughter and we were a Greek family and they were also a Greek ancestry. And so I know that played a role. It wasn't explicit and everything. So you don't have to sell. So those are a couple. That's my quick summary about
that's actually not allowed anymore.
Yes, you can't say it. You can't say it. You can't say it. Of course you can't say it.
We're on a show with a bunch of realtors, Peter. We do not lie.
I'm not a realtor. I'm not bound by that.
Let me add one more politically incorrect hard truth to this discussion. Okay. And this is the worst thing that you can do if you come here, in my opinion. And this compounds the problem that we're talking about here. Is so many people that move here come with an attitude of, now I'm here and we can't change anything. We can't build any more houses. We can't do any more development. It's not local people that have that attitude. It's people who came here from somewhere else. And you can't build that neighborhood next door to me because I don't want to have any more traffic. And you cannot build this workforce housing over here because I don't want poor people living by my expensive neighborhood. That's the worst attitude ever. And that makes the problem worse. And that is driven by people who have come here. So that's something to keep in mind, is if you come here and then you just like, I call it last haole off the boat syndrome. You cannot be the last haole off the boat. Like if you want to come from somewhere else, we'll welcome you. You can be part of our community, but you cannot act like now you're here. So close the gates. Nobody else can come, because that is what causes the problem. And it's really been the biggest driver of our housing crisis and our lack of affordable housing. So
I love it. That's we should put this into like a plaque or something, Dylan. Don't get bit by last haole off the boat syndrome. I mean, that's we gotta put that one up there. Hey, I want to grab some comments from everybody who's been throwing their 2 cents in. Alex Packerman, amen to our discussion that we've been having about all these issues. So I appreciate that, Alex, very much so. And Joan is Wayman, haven't met you, but love you already for your sensitivity, and that is a good thing, right? That Wayman, I do agree that Wayman is sensitive to this whole issue, doesn't want to kind of impact people negatively. So that is a good point, and thank you, Joan, for your sensitivity. Really really quick to catch up on a few more things over here because we got so enthralled in our conversation. Thomas says, "Hey, we feel blessed to have bought when we did. We bought according to our life, not the markets, but it did happen to work in our favor." That's the thing. You got to do it according to your life and don't worry about the market. Let the market do what the market is going to do. You have to live your life. And then finally, as a finale here, thank you, and Judy, you are phenomenal. Join the Islander Hawaii. Join the Islander Ohana. There is no better way to be in contact with others who are interested in moving to Hawaii. You will belong forever. That is exactly correct, Judy. And Judy, you are one of the people that makes the Islander Ohana so awesome. So thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Hey, let's see. I got one more question that I want to hit, but why don't we do this? Let's do our diamonds and deals first. Let's get that out of the way, and go through the properties that we want to share, and then we'll go back. We'll have some question because Cardiac 101, Cardiac 161. I got you here. I got your question. We're going to get right back there. So hold on. All right. So let's go through some diamonds and deals over here. And what do we have on Kahekili Highway? Heidi, what are we looking at?
So this is an ocean view home on nearly an acre of land in Waiihee, which is close to one of my absolute favorite hikes, Waiihee Ridge Trail. I love that hike. You also have a detached 2-bedroom cottage and a studio. And I just thought it would be great to feature this property. Really, it's on a hillside, very lush and tropical. The kitchen's been beautifully remodeled. You have hardwood flooring, and it's listed at 1.8.
That's some really good photography too, if I might add. They picked it at the right time. They lit the house up right. There's a lot of photoshopping, retouching going on to make that look as perfect as it is. And my hat goes off to the photographers. Beautiful house. Why I didn't realize there was a town called Waiihee. I wonder if one of our previous governors, John Waiihee, is also part of that clan. Anyway, we'll find out. Heidi, Ashliey, is this the right one, or do I have to refresh this to get the latest version?
That's the right one, but
Perfect.
I refreshed it and it realigned the photo and now the text. If you want to move on to Dylan's, I can fix it real quick.
Oh, that's okay. Just go for it. It's good enough. You can just hear you talk about it.
Okay, well, this home is in Kailua, an Enchanted Lake. I live in Enchanted Lake as well, so I'm partial. I'm on the canal, and I loved this house. It just came on market last week by a good girlfriend of mine. It's a 4-bedroom. I'm sorry, 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom, and it has an Ohana unit. So if you look at the aerial to the bottom right, you can see the home's in a U shape. The carport is on the street, and then right behind the carport, that wing of the home on the left, that's the Ohana unit. It's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath with a full kitchen that looks over the lake. And then the rest of the home has 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. And then you have the pool in the center, and you can see the lake from the pool going through the home because it's got these just walls of windows and sliders, and then a deck that looks out into the lake there. And you've got some stairs that go into the water so you can kayak or fish or whatever you want out. Love it. You can kayak to the ocean from here, kayak to Buzz's, have some dinner, and it's only 1.2877. I am really thinking.
Only? That's crazy. So cheap.
Sorry, I lied. Two.
Oh, I was gonna say what? Sign me up. Write the offer right now.
Just kidding. 2.877. I am so close to selling, like putting mine on market and putting in a contingency offer. I just love the layout and the lake. And there's only 175 or 176 homes on the lake, in Enchanted Lake. So they don't come up very often.
Actually, if you want to go back and correct that while Dylan is doing his thing, I can show
Okay,
that number.
okay.
That's the only thing that's kind of missing is the number, because it looks like it's for sale for 000, which is like a super deal, even a better deal than I had thought. Dylan, what's this, man? Whoa.
it's always my job to show up Ashliey and Heidi, right? Like when they bring
I'll
these
tell
properties
you.
on, and I'm like,
Damn.
but look what you can get on the Big Island, you guys. If you come to the Big Island, you can get 3 acres. Look at this view. It's like 2,000 feet elevation, just the most stupid, ridiculous view. This is a huge covered lanai with your pool overlooking the Kona coast. It's a triangle shaped lot. You can see from the bottom right there, but just beautiful home, and 2.5 million. I mean, you can't go wrong. Right above the airport and Costco, so real close to town, but way up Kaloko Malka. So it's a beautiful elevation, great temperatures all year round, and just a great value. I mean, for 2.5 and having 3 acres, tons of privacy. No neighbors that you have to listen to or see, and lots of room to grow fruit trees. We have a goat or two. I mean, that's big. This definite Big Island luxury living here.
Did you say have a goat or two?
Yeah, a
Is that what you
goat or a
said?
sheep. Yeah, you keep your grass down, and you don't have to worry about mowing all the time. This is all ag land, right? So you can do lots of stuff if you want. The thing is, you don't have like enough to have like a cow or a horse. You kind of got to get small animal, right? So it's just we'll help you manage that.
Awesome. That is
And I love that
amazing.
living room picture too, because you can see like you're watching TV, but then you just look this way and just like sweeping ocean views from out of your window, and the bedrooms look like that too. Just killer.
What how'd you characterize? You said this is the most stupid, beautiful, amazing, insane. I forget that you had this great string of adjectives that
It's like
described it beautifully.
180, like you're 180 and you're at 2,000 feet. So like the view is it's ridiculous. It's just, it doesn't get, views are cool, but to me, views from like a high elevation are even cooler. And on the Big Island, it's just so steep that you get that dramatic, you can see way out into the horizon, but then you can see the whole coastline. I mean, they're the best. So best
Yeah,
sunsets in the world.
that is insane. And Naomi is chiming in. Very common to have a few goats on Hawaii Island. I you know what, Naomi? Obviously, it's a thing. It must be a thing.
I probably
It's
should
a
have
cool thing.
said sheep though, because this is very important detail, right? About small livestock is sheep are kind of dumb. Like they eat all the grass and they're pretty mellow, and they're pretty easy to manage. Goats, on the other hand, are total rascals. Like they love to crawl under fences and get into stuff, and they're pretty smart. And so they look the same, to like the simple eye, but goats and sheep are very different from a personality, attitude wise. And so sometimes sheep are easier to manage than goats are. So
There is a reason why goats have bad symbolism in sort of symbolic stories and all that kind of stuff. And also, scientifically speaking, goats will eat the grass to the ground, whereas sheep don't do that. Sheep won't. Sheep will not. And because I have a little bit of knowledge, just a little bit, because my ancestry, my grandfather was a goat herder and a sheep herder. He had a herd of goats and a herd of sheep, and I was 10 years old, and we went out on the fields in Greece and in the hills of literally the goat hills of Greece, and it was cool. So just a little, not too much, not too much. Yeah. So see, Jesse says, yeah, they eat everything. Exactly. Cool. Well, Alex was impressed by the property. It is a stupid, insane, ridiculous view. I would agree with that 100%. Can we cover this really, really quick? Let's see. I want to get Cardiacs 161. Aloha, what do you make of last ruling by federal judge stating counties cannot implement change of legally zoned short-term vacation rental and hotel areas to long-term? Mahalo. Does anybody know anything about that we can speak to with any degree of authority? Anybody? Okay, we're gonna.
It's the opposite of a concern. You're concerned if you cannot change the zoning for hotels too short. I mean, like, I don't think there's a concern of doing long-term rentals on short-term zoned areas, because we have a shortage of short-term zoned areas, if I'm reading that correctly.
The issue is flipping it around. The issue is doing short-term rentals, right? Heidi, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of political pressure right now on Maui, and I know that's being discussed at the state level as well. And it's been suggested that there are going to be new proposals at the state level that would allow counties to further limit short-term rentals or phase out of short-term rentals, or whatever the terminology is. That is a concern, And there are buyers and owners that are concerned about that. I mean, it's been something that's been discussed for many, many years. I'm not sure what's going to happen. There's no actual new laws or bills right now, to my knowledge, but then but we are closely watching that and just seeing what's going to happen, especially on Maui, because of so many people displaced by the wildfires in 2023. There is political pressure to make short-term rentals long-term rentals, but I mean, in my opinion, they're really putting the focus in the wrong place, because I mean, the reason we have such a housing crisis is they haven't built anything else for the last 30 years. So now people and government is just trying to deflect the blame onto the short-term rental owners who have just been exercising their property rights that they always had. So it's kind of a complicated issue, because on one hand, you really want people to have housing that need housing, and on the other hand, taking away somebody's property rights, that could have a lot of unintended consequences. I mean, to our economy. I mean, there'd probably be lawsuits. I don't know. It's a dynamic issue and something that we're definitely watching.
It is a complicated one, and I do think that Cardiac's question is related more to Maui than it doesn't apply too much to Oahu, actually, where we've got the opposite issue, where people are trying to get more short-term rentals versus long-term. But in Maui, they're trying to force it. Go ahead,
I just looked this up. It's the Oahu group of the Short-Term Rental Alliance that it's basically affirming their ability to continue to short-term rent in resort zone areas, which they were trying to restrict. So it's actually good. This is good for short-term vacation rentals.
You don't want that. Like that's what hotels are. They're short-term accommodations.
Yeah. But Heidi's discussion is important when it goes back to our first discussion, right? Is here's a novel idea. Why don't we build more houses than screw into people's property rights? Like, how about that?
We can't do that. We can't build more houses. We can't have. I have there's now that Dylan, now that I've moved here, now that I'm here, there's no more development. Now that I've got a house, I've got a house. That's it.
Let's just take houses away from other people and give them to other people instead of building more.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I've moved here. I'm good. Yeah. I'm good. So I don't want more crowds. Just kidding. Being facetious. Hey, really quick before we move on, I did want to put Ashliey's property up online here really quick. It's 2.877 and not 000. The 6-bedroom, 4-bath, 4 parking Ohana unit. Man, what a house. Thank you, Ashliey, for doing that. Mm-hmm. All right. Why don't we do this, gang? How about we're gonna roll this up. It's time for closing motivational thoughts. If you've got, I'd like to hear yours. What motivates you? What is it that you've got for motivation? And we'll open this up with Heidi. Heidi, what's yours, and why is it? What does it mean to you?
Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage, and this is just a reminder to be brave, be courageous, live the life of your dreams, go for it, and you can have the life that you always wanted. It's a new year.
It's a new, excellent. And Auntie Joan, thanks, Auntie Joan. We appreciate your consistently helping us out with this section. Love is felt in all directions. Excellent. And Cardiac, mahalo for your opinions. I'm sorry we can talk about this more. We're at the end of the show, but come back next time and ask it again, and we'll probably talk a lot more about it. We got not sidetracked, but we had all kinds of other crazy issues. All right, thank you, Heidi. Let's get this next one here. This got to be Dylan. Is this yours, Dylan?
Well, yeah, this one it's long, but I heard a speaker talk about this recently, and because it's Martin Luther King Day week, he's an epitome of this concept, right? And so, if in the world that we live in, of this immediate gratification, Amazon one click, shows up the next day, service type world that we live in, we can forget that if you can push off your need for any type of results or gratification for 1 year, you can change your life. If you can push off the need for any type of return or gratification for 10 years, you can change many people's lives. But if you can work at something with no expectation of ever seeing the results in your lifetime, you can change the world. And if you think about people like Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln and the folks that have changed the world, they didn't see the impact of the work that they did and the sacrifices that they made in their lifetime, during their lifetime, because so many things changed afterwards. So just keep that in mind when you're working and you're passionate about something. You may never ever see the results, and if you want to have big results, you have to expect never to see the results.
That is some deep stuff there. That is an excellent one. Never thought about that. If you never expect to see the results in your lifetime, you could change the world.
And our kids are probably the closest example of that, right? If we do a good job raising a good human, like, we'll be long gone and never see the impact that they make on the world, right? But it's an investment of 20, 30, 40, 50 years potentially of work in something that will affect the world for years to come, long after you're gone.
Well said. Well said. Well, Alex Pack the man says, each one of you motivate me. I'm grateful to have you as friends. And Alex, we are grateful that you're here. We're grateful that you're here. Ashliey, what's your quote today?
I just want to say I love that quote that Dylan chose.
Amazing.
I have that one posted in a book somewhere. This isn't a quote, but it was in a song, not by a famous artist, by a no-name artist, but I really loved it. Something good is going to happen in this year, and I'm grateful that I made it here. It's a manifestation from my perspective. You just state something good is going to be happening this year, and at the end of the day, just be grateful that you're here to experience it, whatever it might be, whatever your best is that day. You're here, you're alive. You can change it. If you're not happy, just keep pushing forward.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Excellent. Yeah, it's that it's the one of the most timeless arts that is known, right? This one of manifestation, the secret, the idea of saying the things that you want to kind of bring into existence. It is a great thing. All right, and I'm going to wind up with my Proverbs line here. Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord and will be repaid in full. Which is to say that when you are kind to the poor, the big man upstairs is the one who's kind of keeping track of all that thing, and you will be repaid in full for all that you have given. It's a long way. It's a long way of saying that givers are gainers. What you give will come back to you multiplied by many-fold. All right. And with that, we are going to see you all in 2 weeks. Great show again, as usual. I'm so happy that all of you participated both online and both here live. Say goodbye clockwise, Dylan, then Heidi, and then Ashliey. Say goodbye.
Have an awesome weekend, everybody.
Aloha, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Oop, Ashliey, you're muted. You're muted.
Aloha, everyone. Have a great weekend. And thank you, Alex, for your comments. He left some sweet comments there for us.
Very, very sweet comments. Have a great weekend. And yeah, thanks, buddy. Have a great one. Aloha. Alex, aloha, folks. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Aloha.